Hello, singing friends. Welcome back to my channel. It's Miki here, your friendly neighborhood singing coach. Today I'm going to be doing a full album review. We're going to be looking at Ofra Haza, Queen in Exile, which was released posthumously, many of the tracks, and it was made in 1995, and it's a concept album about a queen who is exiled by her king. So we're going to be going through all the tracks, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to the whole track, obviously, but I'm only going to include about 30 seconds of each one, and then I'm going to put the link to the uninterrupted complete tracks in the description box below, because I don't want to get flagged, and I also don't want this video to be like an hour long. So because of that, I'm just going to listen to a little bit in the video, and then I'll give you my reaction, obviously. If you've been on my channel, you probably have heard me talk about Ofra before. This is a request from my viewer, Laura Sassani, who obviously is a huge Ofra fan, and I am as well. Ofra was known as the Madonna of the Middle East. She's one of the most successful crossover artists, and she had this really interesting blend of traditional music and Western music. And she, of course, had a really tragic story. Her career was very successful, but it probably could have been a lot longer had she not passed away tragically from AIDS. And she contracted AIDS in the beginning of the crisis when not a lot was understood about it, and there were a lot of prejudices, and so she really kept it a secret, almost to the point of her death. So, of course, that's really tragic, and making it even more tragic, she contracted it from her husband, who was a relapsed drug addict. So it's a very sad story, and we don't know how much more she would have done with her career had she not passed away in this tragic way. But we do have a lot of wonderful music from her, and a lot of really interesting collaborations with other artists. One of the limitations that I've talked about with her is it's been 20 years now since she passed away, and a lot has happened in terms of music production and everything else. So some of her music can sound a little dated production-wise, which is sad. You know, it's kind of a time capsule of the time in which it was produced. But despite that, her voice is transcendent and timeless, and she's just such a talent. So I am really, really looking forward to listening to this record. I've heard a couple of the tracks already, but I have not listened to the whole thing. I'm excited to dive right in. So let's get started with the first track. Loris has provided me with some notes about each one. So the first song is called Matahari, which describes the queen's life by telling the story of the famous spy Matahari. All right, so here we go. Let's listen to this song. To that track. I actually really liked it. I do think that it sounds a little bit dated with the production, but it's funny, I like this style of production. You know, it's very heavy, so you have that really like percussive kind of thing going on. You have that like bass line that's really really kind of heavy and bopping along, and those electric guitars in the background. So it actually almost reminds me of like 9 Inch Nails production or something, you know, with like her beautiful floating voice over it. So I actually really like it, even though it sounds a little bit dated. And about her voice, I think, you know, I really like her use of vibrato in the song. You can really hear that very strong vibrato right in the beginning, that Matahari, right? You hear that like oscillation in her voice rather than singing with like a straight tone. So that's really noticeable on this track, that she's using a lot of her really beautiful vibrato. The other thing is I like the repetition, and I like the percussiveness of her voice. So she has that ta tiki ta tiki ta tiki ta ta, right, where she's like almost like making percussion with her voice. So I think it's a cool, upbeat, almost like dance kind of feel, like dance rock combined. And it's a strong opening for the album. It's very, very upbeat and has a lot of energy. So I really liked it. All right, so on to the next track. This is called Fatfata. And it says, the queen tells the story of her younger, energetic, bubbly self known as Fatfata. So let's check it out. Was a really, really nice continuation of the previous track. I like that this is a concept album and that it has this continuous thread. We're only on the second track, but I did feel like track 1 flowed really nicely into track 2 in terms of the continuation of that same tempo, you know, and that like rhythmic kind of feel was a really, really nice continuation. I like that she's continuing to do that percussive thing with her voice, that fatfata, fatah, fatfata, fatah, fatfata, fatah, fa. So she's like creating the percussion with her vocals, which I think is really, really cool. She also has some really, really nice melismas in this one. And there's a breakdown in the middle where she does harmonies with other voices. And I think that that's really beautiful. I like this track a little bit less than the previous one. I just like the feel of like the previous one was a little bit harder or more rock or something, you know? But this one is very, very nice as well. So I like it. One thing that I noticed about her vocals is I thought the opening was really strong when she comes in with that first main line, you know? The da, 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 da. It's already pretty high and pretty connected. So it's like this intense kind of entrance. But I think it's interesting that the main vocal doesn't come in until 50 seconds into the track. You know, I think these are, this one doesn't feel like a single to me, you know, like it feels like an album track because it takes kind of a long time to kick off. And I like that she has the melismas in the background, you know, the da, you kind of hear her doing those ornaments and runs in the background, but there's something that's repetitious about it too, so it's not as improv-y as some of the other stuff that she's done, so it just sticks in your ear a little bit more. So I thought all that was really, really nice. I did like this track. All right, so let's move on to track number 3 here. So this one is called Jerusalem, and it says, this song speaks about the queen's role as a judge as she tells the biblical story of King Solomon, who was the greatest judge, and the 2 women. I wonder who the 2 women are. I always think of Solomon as having the split the baby judgment, right? I think that was 2 men. Maybe it was 2 women. I don't know. I need to brush up on my Bible stories here. All right, so let's listen to this one.
Jerusalem, 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 Jerusalem.
So I guess it was 2 women. It makes sense if they're talking about a baby, but yeah, so I liked that this kind of mixes up the genre and the tempo. It's a slower song and it has that kind of almost reggae beat to it. And then she's singing the lyrics almost like she's rapping them. It's very, very rhythmic and she's singing the melody, but it's almost like monochromatic. It doesn't have a lot of skips and jumps and intervals. So I thought that was like a really interesting, just different style, you know, and it shows how versatile she is. She could do so many things and pull it off really, really well. I love that opening, that Jerusalem, 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 Jerusalem. It just kind of like sets the stage, right? And then you get into that beat. She had some nice melismas right in the beginning of the track, and then she gets into that spoken word almost, which was really cool. One thing that I noticed about this is you can hear her accent more on this track, and it's funny because I think later in her career, she really got rid of any accent that she had in the multiple languages that she sung in. I think it's one of the really interesting things about her and really shows her intelligence. You know, she was such a polyglot and she was able to flawlessly speak and sing in other languages as if she was a native speaker. So you can hear more of her accent on this track. I don't know if this was recorded a little bit earlier than some of the other songs that we've heard of her singing in English, but there's something that's charming about that too. It's really cute and nice. All right, so let's go on to track number 4. This one is called Genesis, and it says, the song explains the Queen's call for unification of people, regardless of sex or color, by telling the story of the creation, Genesis. Cool. All right, let's check it out. This track. I think it's really lush and it really shows her vocal chops. There were some things about it that were a little bit cheesy to me, like that spoken word, the male and female, black and white, blah, blah, blah. Like just the way that it sounded production wise and the way that she was speaking, it sounded a little bit dated to me. But I loved the opening. I love that like hypnotic drone, the dun, 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 you know how it like drones on. And then I loved her melismas, the really, really nice, like, da, I can't do it like her, but you know, that like harmonic minor kind of really Middle Eastern scale melismas are so characteristic of her beautiful voice. And then when she opens up into that, the main vocal, you really hear her power and her gorgeous voice on this song. And I love just the lushness of the production, that it's so rich and there's so many things in there. So I thought this was a standout track for me. It was really, really beautiful. One funny little note is that, you know, I didn't understand all of the lyrics because it's hard to hear the Hebrew and everything else mixed in with all the stuff that's going on in the track. And I could have sworn that she repeats the word falafel. It just sounds like she's saying falafel, falafel, whispering falafel seductively in the background of this track. I know she's not. Maybe somebody can clarify to me what she's actually saying. All right, track number 5 is called Separate Ways, and it says, this song reveals the slow demise of the king and queen's love. Track for me. I really like the change in pace. I would almost say that this is like a slow blues / R&B number. I really like hearing her low voice and the sultry way in which she's singing this song. I love the vocal fry. I love that opening. What is it that you want from me? I really wish I knew. Right, you're really getting that nice, rich, deep voice that we don't hear that often from her. We're so used to hearing that nice, clear soprano register. So I thought it was really, really cool. I love how much variety there is on this album, and so far I haven't heard a bad song. So I think it's really, really great. All right, let's listen to the next one. This is track number 6, and this is called Queen in a Dream of Exile. This song portrays the exile of the queen by her king as she is yearning for freedom and supplicating to the divine for help. Another really, really beautiful and interesting contrasting mood and track. I thought it was very, very appropriate for a dream. It was very dreamy. I loved the finger picking and just that gorgeous, breathy vocal, that da 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 da. That beautiful line was really, really haunting and really set the mood. It totally felt like a dream. And I love how different this track was. It's another style and also done very, very well. So far I'm really, really loving this album. Really haven't heard a bad track. So now we're going on to track number 7. This is Scheherazade. And it says, the song describes the love the king and the queen once had by telling the story of the 1001 nights in which a ruler kills every woman he sleeps with until he meets Scheherazade, a woman who tells him tale after tale to avoid being killed. 1001 stories and 1001 nights. The king then falls in love with her and makes her his queen. I didn't like this song as much. I think it's just the combination of like the kind of pop sounds just didn't resonate with me as much. But I thought it was fine. There were some interesting chord changes in the background. You know, there were some unexpected chord changes in the chord progression that I thought were interesting. I didn't think it was a bad song or anything, but it just wasn't like one of the standout tracks for me. All right, so let's go on to the next one. This is called Love is a Shelter. And it says, the song shows the queen's strong belief in the power of love and that no matter how much the world hates you, love will forever be a shelter to everyone. It's another style here. We've got some of that flamenco guitar in there. So yet another genre she's dipping into. I thought it flowed really well from the previous song, and yet I like this song better. I really like that she's using her lower register again in this song. I think her voice sounds amazing, very, very powerful. And again, it's in English, and yet we hear her accent less on this track for whatever reason. I don't know if it's just the lyrics that she's singing, but I think this is a good album track. It's got good energy, and I think it works. So let's continue on to the next one. We are on track 9 now. This is called Cashmere, and it says the song explains the queen's dream of the land of Cashmere, and how she is lost in the dream, lost in the burning sand and wasted lands, and how she is trying to find a way out of it. A symbol of her suffering in real life and her attempts to escape her suffering. Oh, I just realized that this is the cover of the Zeppelin song Cashmere. So they didn't write it for this album, it's a cover. That makes more sense. I was like, that's an interesting collaboration. Let's check it out.
Oh, let the sun beat down upon my face, stars to fill my dreams. I'm a traveler of both time and space, to be where I have been. The dust it blows high in June, when moving through Kashmir, with no provision but an open face along the strait.
Alright, so I thought that was actually a really interesting cover. Obviously it's much more haunting and open. She starts without any instrumentation behind her, just her beautiful voice, which is gorgeous. And then she creates all of these interesting layers with her voice at the end that kind of almost creates that rock sound. I mean, the Zeppelin tune actually isn't that lush in terms of its instrumentation. I went back and I listened to it again just to remember what it sounds like. And I think her cover is just as interesting as the album version of that song. So I thought it was a really, really interesting kind of choice. You know, I wouldn't have pegged her as a Zeppelin fan, but it's really interesting how she pulls from so many different genres and so many different styles of music. So I thought that was really cool, actually, that she had that on there. All right, so the next song is Open Your Heart, which I actually did a separate video on, so I'm gonna link to that. And this, again, is like a really interesting choice of a song to cover, and I thought she did a really, really nice, faithful version of it. And the way that it fits into the album is it says the queen dedicates the song to her king, asking him to open his heart to her and telling him that she will not stop fighting until he opens his heart. All right, so I will link to my video in the description box below for that song. And now we are on the final album track. This is called Queen in Exile. It says the queen finally triumphs and wins her freedom back and once again becomes ruler of her lands together with her king. So let's check it out, the final song of the album. Here we go.
Your grace will return.
I liked it. I didn't think it was the strongest song on the album. I think it's interesting that they chose to end with that one. I liked the kind of like offbeat feel. It almost brought that like reggae feel back again. And it was very slow, and there were some nice catchy things about the chorus, the da 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 that repeats. That's a nice catchy melody, but definitely not one of the standout tracks for me on the record. But all in all, I thought this was a really, really strong album. I loved the variety of genres and how everything flowed together. It really worked for me as a concept album. I could hear the structure, and I thought the track listing was very well assembled. Like everything flowed really, really nicely. I liked the energy arc. I thought there were a lot of really strong songs. There was nothing on here that I thought was bad or like a weak song. I think if I had to pick out the ones that I liked the least, I would say that this last one, Queen in Exile, I thought Cashmere was okay. It was an interesting choice. I didn't love it. And I think Scheherazade was, oh no, Love is a Shelter, the one that was more pop, also I didn't love. So everything else I thought was really, really strong. I loved all of the other tracks. And I especially thought the beginning of the album was strong. So I think this probably is one of my favorite albums of hers, and it wasn't released until after her death. It was released posthumously. I think it was really strong and just really showed her versatility as an artist. There were plenty of places where you really hear the strength of her voice and her range. You know, there were parts where she sings in that beautiful high clear soprano, but also a lot of like low alto contralto range stuff. And you know that I'm a sucker for the low ranges in women's voices. So I really love this. I will definitely be giving this continued listens and delving more into it. Thank you so much for recommending that I look at this. I really, really did enjoy it. This was a nice little album exploration. I hope that you enjoyed my reaction. I will see you guys here next time. And again, if you want to listen to the album uninterrupted, the full tracks, I will put them all in the description box below, including linking my video that I did for Open Your Heart. All right, so I will see you guys here next time. If it's a Monday, I'll see you Wednesday. If it's a Wednesday, I'll see you Monday. Until then, of course, happy singing.